15 gauge,
Yes.
and it's a pretty big hole it leaves. That's why he has to.
If you look close, it has a bevel, and if you look at the back, there's also a back hole. And it's got the little bit of tubing, about 11 inches of tubing, I guess. I'm not sure of the exact length. And it's got the wings on there to tape. But
There's
that's,
no back hole on this one, Les.
Oh, okay. Well, the arterial needle has a back hole, and
Yeah.
the venous doesn't. That one is just returning the blood into my bloodstream. So that's what you have to go through 5 days a week. So 5 days a week at 15 months. I can't do the math on the fly, but that's over 500 sticks with a 15 gauge needle. So any of you guys that do electrical work, you know what a 14 gauge wire is. I cut that in a diagonal. That's a pretty big gaping hole in the arm. It's not fun. So if anybody, like I said before, if you know anybody that is on dialysis, you don't know much about it, they certainly, if you're interested in donating a kidney, it's something to give serious thought to. Not only the drudgery of doing this every day, and you know, this is a part-time job plus a full-time job. If you were to donate a kidney, there's all different stats, but basically you're going to double someone's life expectancy by giving them a kidney, and certainly freeing them up to travel and just enjoy their life. This probably takes me, if I total it up, 20 to 25, 30 hours a week. On top of the actual procedure, you have deliveries coming. You have to rotate your supplies. You have to unpack the boxes. And it's, you know, basically, as anybody who's familiar with dialysis, it's a big pain in the ass. So that's that. Okay, now my method, I used to do a bunch of gauze, but it was, or a bunch of tape, but you know, taping your arm 25 times a week, it tears your skin up. So I just use a Band-Aid. But what I'd recommend anybody is be very careful, because this just clotted, so if I were to use my arm and really push, this thing will spurt out. And I had one time where I squeezed down on my arm to get out of the chair, and this blood went everywhere, and my wife wasn't happy because I messed the chair up. So I use Band-Aids. I know in center they put all kinds of tape on there, but this seems to work for me, so that's my method. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to remove the arterial needle.
Do you want me to hold it on this side? Do you want to get on this side?
Well, you might want to pause it. This is the arterial needle, and as you can see, there she is. Now I'm lightly putting the gauze over. Now this is the greatest part of dialysis at all, is when this needle comes out. Now I am done with my treatment once I Band-Aid this up, and then I'm good, and then for 24 hours. And I repeat the process all over again. And you're always going to lose a little blood with the needles coming out. You want to be careful not to push down on this gauze when that needle is coming out, because that is a sharp needle, and if you put pressure down, you're going to cut that hole on the way out. Also, some people flip the needles. This is just my personal opinion, is put those needles in. If you've got some high pressure, run the machine at a lower speed. I do not like messing with the needles once they're in. If you flip them, you run the risk of cutting inside of the wall inside of your fistula vessel. So that's just me. People can obviously develop their own methods. If you want to look down here real quick, we've got one of these. I don't know what they're called, some kind of dish basket. But we found this is a good way to organize our supplies that we're using. And I used this at home, and it also worked out good to travel. I just threw that in a box, and I was ready to go. So in another couple minutes, also no peeking. Don't pull that gauze off. because you run the risk of germs. Of course, we don't want any. The key is not to get any infection. So that's it for this video. Okay, I have 28 minutes left of my treatment, so that means I have to take my blood pressure one more time on my flow sheet. One thing that I will recommend is getting one of these back scratchers, because you might get itchy, especially if your phosphorus is a little high. You're definitely going to be itchy. Have that handy. I feel pretty good. Usually you really don't feel anything on treatment. You get a little tired. You really can't doze off because every 30 minutes you have to take your vitals, so you can't, you have to stay awake. There is a home hemo nocturnal program that a lot of places are starting up, which you would run at a slower rate. You would hook yourself up and then actually go into bed. I'm a little scared because I'm running sharps, so I've got two 15-gauge sharp needles in my arm, and I thrash around when I sleep, so I'm hesitant to try that mode of treatment. But this is about it, and like I showed you before, I've got this under the blanket, the line sets. I keep the rest visible in case of any blood leakage. I rarely that happens to me, but I have had a little leakage one time, and you feel it immediately. So you want to keep an eye on that, and basically that's it. Take my blood pressure one last time, and then we will show you how to tear down. And the very best part is getting off of the machine, and then you're good for 24 hours. Okay, now my machine is, I'm finished with my treatment. So I like to crank the blood pump down into the low 200s. So I'll leave it at about 220. And now I took off those, my method, I took off those, the little needle protectors. And now I'll slide the clamps all the way up to the top here. Now, my lovely wife is preparing the saline. She's handing that to me. Well, no, she needs to hand me one with saline. Okay, now I have a saline syringe. No, stop the machine.
Oh, yeah, we're being videotaped. It's good.
That's right. So, now she stopped the blood flow, and now we clamp. Okay, now we can open up. If she would have opened up that blood line with the blood pump going, we would have made a mess. But no worries. Okay. Now this is just saline. Now this is, you wouldn't think that's a lot of blood, but I wanna preserve that.
Look here.
So
I'm disconnecting here and putting this here very carefully.
She's reconnecting that line. This is called the rinse back portion.
Are you getting this guy? And then open it here and here.
She's opening the clamps. So now there's about 300 milliliter of my blood in this machine. And now she's going to hit the add fluid button. The machine went to 277, so it's going to put 277 milliliter of blood out of that saline bag.
And it's coming right here, look.
It's dropping down, and it's going to run through the full blood circuit. So I'm getting my blood back that went into the cycler to start with. Now, if my blood pressure were to, if my blood pressure dropped during the treatment, I would have given myself, I've got 7 there, I would have given myself a 100 milliliter of saline to increase my blood pressure, and that was through that saline tea. I would have opened this up and given myself fluid, but I didn't need any.
And what you can do, if you use up all the saline, you can take this off, put another bag on, and reinsert this into the new bag, and be refreshed.
You'd have to spike a new bag.
You've got to make sure there's enough fluid here for the rinse back.
And now I'm down to 99, and you can see this is starting to get pink, and you can see the blood made it all the way through the cartridge, which this is the artificial kidney.
Let's put the cartridge back in.
And the blood has made its way all the way through, and now you can see up at the header there's a little bit of clotting,
The
a little bit of
residue,
blood
but that
that
doesn't come through.
remain in there, but that's fine.
But look, the rinse back is becoming clear.
And now we're almost clear. And
look, there's still a bit of pink, so I normally, we'll get into its numbers.
it's a little pink. So now my final numbers, 2 hours and 44 minutes. I used 30, I used 30 milliliters of dialysate. I took off 0.1 milliliter of fluid because I didn't need to pull any off, and I processed 73 liters of blood. If I didn't have any kidney function at all, this number would be this number would be determined by the weight. If I was 5 pounds heavier than my target weight, then I would have pulled that fluid out of my bloodstream, out of my plasma in my bloodstream. But I don't need any ultrafiltration, so those are my numbers. So
anyway, so he puts these numbers down on his sheet. 244.73.
244.73.
Unless you want any more rinse back because
yeah,
you're
you
coming
can give me
back.
a little bit more. 30 liters of dialysate, and my ultrafiltration was 0.01.
That's just starting up now, just to get this a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I'm just going to put a little more saline in to make sure that we've
got all the blood back.
We have all the blood. It's not necessarily necessary, and that should be good. That's pretty clear.
So we turn it off and he clamps up, and here.
If you had absolutely no kidney function, you might not want to
give yourself
any more fluid. That would be between you and your dialysis nurse and your dialysis clinic. I have probably about 5% kidney function, so I will. My body will get rid of that extra saline.
And then once this is done, you've got your numbers. You switch it off at the back. There's a little switch back here.
So we can turn that off, and we can also turn off the
here.
We can turn this heater off.
No,
Okay.
it's on.
And that's going to be, if you can just unplug that. So we don't need that heater anymore, so we're just unplugging it. Okay. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay.
Well, tell him what you're doing.
Okay, now she's disconnecting the venous line. Sometimes you need a kung fu grip. This glucose in that dialysate, and it seems to, at least I've been told, it sticks together the connections.
And when I disconnect, I just reconnect it to blue, just so you don't drop it on the floor and nothing comes out. It's all connected and sealed, and you close all the clamps up.
So now
so you don't lose any fluid on the floor.
Okay. Now I'm using a gauze, and as you can see, for the video purpose, I'll pull that needle back a little bit. You can see that's a 15 gauge sharp needle. It's 1 inch long. So I'll put that needle now. You got to be very careful not to press down until that needle is completely removed. Can you grab that, please? And then now it's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes. I've got to keep pressure on here. So my method is just to hold it. I take my time, and then I'll remove the arterial needle. But sometimes I'll actually just tape this if I'm in a hurry to get to the other needle. But I'll just hold that down for 3 minutes until it clots. Okay. You ready? Okay, so now I finished my flow sheet. I took my final weight, my final blood pressures, my temperature, answered the questions, am I short of breath, yada yada, and that's complete. Okay. Now, since I'm just traveling on the road, I didn't want to bring a big Sharps container. I cut the needles off and put them in my little Sharps biohazard pill bottle. So that is going to go back home with me, and I'll put it in my Sharps container. As far as the rest of this is just regular garbage. It's not considered medical waste. You can just throw it in the garbage. but they recommended to me at the dialysis clinic to make sure this isn't in a clear bag or anything, because sometimes garbage men see this, they see these bags, they freak out. Now we're breaking everything down, so it's very simple. It's just a matter of pulling everything apart. One thing I can tell you is that's a very heavy bag. And if you do have an air compressor, I came back from an RV trip the one time, and my son looked at me and I looked at him, and we both looked at the compressor, and yes, we connected these two. I've got a 120-gallon oil compressor, and these things get as big as beach balls, and then they explode very nicely.
And you will be doing
so
that.
You might want to save these
them.
to have some fun. So these, you just tear that all down. You open up the front of your cycler, and don't forget to disconnect the pressure pod. The cartridge easily just pulls out. So all this will just get bundled up and thrown into the regular trash.
Now, do you throw it all together in one bag, or do you break those all apart?
I throw it all together in one bag.
It's easier. Otherwise, you'd be leaking liquids, or
Yeah, I just put it all, leave it all connected, pull it all apart, throw it all together, and throw it out. And that is it. That's the day of dialysis treatment.
In a future episode, my husband and my son's gonna blow up a couple of those balloons just to see how much air it takes to explode. And think of other shenanigans they can get up to using those bags, because they're really strong bags. So stay tuned for that one. Have a great day.